So back in the early days of YouTube, you just expressed yourself. There was nothing about popularity. Nobody cared about subscribers or anything like that. People didn't care about making any sort of profit from their videos. It was clean, it was honest, it was fun, it was friendly. The rise of the anime review culture came around after the monetization era. People were just coming out of the woodwork just to embarrass themselves left and right in order to make a little bit of money, and they're trying to get their review of it out to be the very first person to have it out, editing it as fast as they possibly can, if not even editing it at all, just to be the first person up there. There's not going to be a whole lot of creativity there, and there was so much drama involved with people supposedly copying each other, trolling, making all sorts of counts, and just because they were upset about popularity, somebody making more money than them. At this point, the community was basically nothing but hyper-sensationalism, as positive as it could possibly be. They feel like if they were negative at all, if they have any sort of criticism of the show, it's the death of their channel. So it gets to the point where you have people who do criticize anime, and they just get so much hate. And whenever you get someone who disagrees with your criticism, they're not going to want to listen to you. They're just going to result in name-calling. There's a lot of pseudo-intellectualism going on, and there's a lot of connections made to a lot of these shows that don't really exist, just because if you overthink enough about something, you are going to find what it is that you're looking for, even if it's not present there. It creates this false sense of what a reviewer should be. We are losing focus on why we love anime to begin with. We can go back to just talking about the things we love about the anime, or explaining why we didn't like a show without getting into this incredibly long video, just getting into these smaller little aspects which are totally irrelevant in the grand scheme of things.
The shows of our childhood seemed so great not just because we were oblivious to what else is out there, but also because we had limited access to them. We couldn't watch them anytime we wanted to. It was either the specific time they aired, or having to wait for their reruns years later. We could buy them on VHS, or a decade later on DVDs, but that was very expensive as a hobby for someone who doesn't have a job and a steady income. Nowadays, it is very easy to get tired of a show and jump to another, because we have very easy access to everything that comes out, and we can watch it without even paying anything. What I'm trying to say here is that the pre-fast internet era, long-running shows were working because there was dedication to the few things we had available. It was a personal thing, since the only way we could discuss a show we liked was only face-to-face. We could also have our personal interpretation of the show. It didn't matter what was actually going on in the show, only what we thought was going on. This personal touch is gone now. You just go on a forum and talk on an impersonal level with people from all over the world. Yeah, sure, you can get far more information and better explanations for something you didn't understand properly, but that is again what makes it impersonal, since you're just accepting other people's opinions. What you think of a show is not your thought anymore. In most cases, the established opinion is not even a proper one. You just accept it because the opposition outnumbers you. If 10,000 people say Aku no Hana is a bad show, then Aku no Hana is a bad show. Isn't democracy lovely?
They didn't say anything!
That youthful innocence really can't be used as an excuse anymore. If he's not gonna change now, he's never gonna change. He's just going to get worse.
Oh, I don't know any better, I'm just a kid. Ha 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 ha!
No, you really don't seem to know what you're doing. He only does those things begrudgingly and only because he has to. Unnecessary evil. He doesn't really, care, it's just he states a fact. It's kind of obvious like that.
Oh well guys, I'm gonna go fight this guy now. See ya!
He can go not talking to people for years and go,
Oh hey, it's been a long time, huh?
he is extremely selfish and be damned of the consequences should they be bad to other people. If he can get what he wants, then that's what matters.
So using this mentality, there is very little motivation to be dedicated to something if your options are not limited and your personal opinion doesn't matter much. You can claim all you want how older shows had worse stories or characters, but they still felt 100 times more important than these modern 12-episode whatevers you won't even remember in a week. Today we can watch an episode a few hours after it airs. We don't have to wait years for it to be imported and dubbed. We know when the first episode will air 3 months prior and have a detailed overview of who made it or what it's going to be all about. There is no mystery there. Older shows had that, since you had no access to what is going to happen later on. We were full of anticipation for something to finally continue, and we were content no matter how average it was. Unlike now, where you can find out about the story to the whole show right away. Back then, fan, you couldn't be spoiled. And that is why you were rarely getting fed up with the show and kept watching it indefinitely. And ironically, the same word can describe how most modern fans look to me. Not only they get easily spoiled, but they also act as if they are spoiled, having so many demands, and they want it fast and flashy and cheap, and make polls and petitions so the next season will be as they desire it to be. That wasn't happening when I was a kid. I couldn't demand from a company to make a show as I wanted it, and I wasn't switching the channel to something else if there weren't enough boobs every 5 minutes.
He didn't say anything!
Attack on Titan Season 2 will be 12 to 13 episodes. I'm not gonna lie, it is a bit concerning. 4 long years waiting to milk Attack on Titan. That's disappointing. It's a huge franchise, makes a shit ton of money. I really love to milk Attack on Titan. It is disappointing, especially waiting so many years to milk Attack on Titan. We waited 4 fucking years to milk Attack on Titan. Overall, it's a disappointing thing because I really love to milk Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is so amazing and there's so much content to milk Attack on Titan. I'm worried. I'm not gonna lie, I'm worried because I do really enjoy to milk Attack on Titan. I'm Finna World, and as always, people, I really love to milk Attack on Titan.
Older shows were slow burners. You would savor them slowly. You would get to bind with the characters. You would be given time to get into the proper mood. Newer shows don't do that. Everything comes and goes so fast, you are given no time to like anything. Knee-jerk reactions, overthinking, and ending before you even understand what just happened. Emotions are limited to the spectacle, not the cast. You're not even given time to remember them for something because the next show begins right afterwards. And don't give me that crap about having the feels for some generic school romance that lasted for a dozen episodes just to be replaced by an identical show immediately afterwards. Whatever you felt had no time to settle in. It's just jumping left and right until you get fed up with it and give up on the medium entirely. I want to finish this topic by correcting something. People say we older fans have nostalgia for shows of our childhood, which clouds our judgment and makes us value them more than what they deserve. If there is clouding going on in there, it's no different from what modern fans are doing all the time by overhyping every mediocrity that comes out just because it's new. So don't pretend the newer fans are unbiased or some shit like that.
You have your fairy tales, beautiful anime with their good story. It ran week to week, it had badass character, pretty awesome fights.
Dear Lord.
He didn't say anything!
Here I am a year and a half later after the original show, and all this new information that's been brought to my attention has completely changed what I thought the show was about. Queer baiting. The idea of presenting just a deep friendship with this sort of fetishistic attention to detail, trying to have the appearance of Yuri to rope in a certain audience, even though the show's not really about that. The text of the show is saying these two are just friends, but the subtext is blaring sirens on full blast. This is Yuri. They've convinced you of something that you're not supposed to be convinced of. If this was the intention, the show is less good because of that. When it turns out that it's not really Yuri, that audience is just going to be pissed. At this level of effort, you're just making a show that people are going to watch because it's good. You're not making a show that people are watching just to get their little visually intensive, beautiful, gorgeous show that people would talk about for how pretty it is. And I think that's how they fucked up. Seems to go so far out of its way to be like classy and to present this idea that it's something deeper. They went too far on making the scenes really beautiful. All out on painting them in these gorgeous lighting and colors and effects, and it just gives you the wrong impression. The emotions are riding so high here, but the actual emotion that the show's trying to convey is something much more subdued, and I think it would have been better for a more subdued image, you know, something that's not so beautiful, that's not so like romantic. It didn't need to have that much animation, and it's just distracting. I just get exhausted, because moments that don't mean anything are animated so ridiculously as though they do. It's hard to even follow the show sometimes, because there's just so much fucking shit going on that has nothing to do with, like, conveying the actual feelings of those scenes. When anime cuts to power lines, you're not meant to think about the power lines. It's just there to give you breathing room. But when I see the bugs fighting, I think about the bugs fighting, and now I'm kind of distracted and delayed before the next scene starts. It's just showing how much animation they can do.
It's all in your mind, you know. It's all mental. It's different for each one of you. It has a personal attention-sinking powers for each one of us. It's amazing. K-On! is the best show ever. Why isn't anyone ever liking this show? I have been talking all this time about it. It's the best thing ever. I mean, holy shit, cute girls doing cute things. Fuck JoJo. Who wants to see manly men doing manly things? I mean, holy fuck. It's K-On! Man. It's so...
He didn't say anything!
Everybody is now doing the same things. Forums have very little traffic and most YouTube channels feel very samey compared to how things were some years ago. But how is that possible if there are many times more anime fans and anime channels now than there were a decade ago? I will let you decide that by giving you 10 things which changed in the way the anime community of today differs from the anime community of a decade ago. And these are stuff I realize as a very old fan myself, which of course means I will be biased towards the old style. Most newer fans on the other hand will prefer the new style. So let's start with the most obvious one. Number 1. No more Big 3. Older fans loved to have heated debates over franchises, whether it was Nintendo vs Sega, Mortal Kombat vs Street Fighter, or Naruto vs Bleach. There would always be passionate supporters in each side. But this doesn't happen anymore. The Big 3 are no more, and the closest thing that replaced those debates are the not nearly as heated best girl contests. Which also means, number 2, not as much internet drama. Back in the old days, we would have a flame war almost every week, where dozens of people would be constantly arguing for days over the most unimportant things. We are talking about dozens of pages filled with walls of text where fanatics of each side would be constantly going back and forth with claims and insults and constantly trying to prove themselves right over something that eventually doesn't even get a clear answer. It was fairly pointless and toxic, but it was keeping the community alive. Disputes were what maintained the interest of the die-hard fans, who would constantly think and write more ways to prove their point. Even when the whole thing was turning to name-calling, it would still be an event of passion and fun, with dozens of others sitting back, eating popcorn and enjoying the ride. Nowadays, flame wars are seen very negatively, and most people downvote, report or openly complain when they find one. Moderators became stricter and will lock or ban anyone doing such things very fast. Although this way there is more peace and prosperity, there is also less burning passion. The community is way softer since you are not encouraged to be bold anymore, and everyone is almost pressured to be calm, positive and mediocre, or else he is kicked out. You can say fans are now more polite and diplomatic, but they are also less excited for the same reason. And do you know why this mentality changed so much? Number 3. There are too many of us. Back in the old days, the number of anime fans was small, and as such there weren't that many forums. You would go there, find the same 50 or so people posting, and since you would know each other too well, it would be very easy to personally mind something too much and get into a debate. The moderators wouldn't care much about that, since there weren't many places an anime fan could go to if he didn't like the anime community in a certain forum. There were only 2 or 3 of them, so you either had to tolerate it or keep your hobby to yourself. Same thing applied to YouTube channels. There weren't that many of them, so you had to eventually get used to the eccentric behavior of the YouTubers. Nowadays there are tens of thousands of fans in hundreds of forums, and it's very easy for a forum to die out if many have problems with it. They will just go to another forum. Order needs to be maintained for the sake of traffic, or in the case of YouTube channels, for the sake of not losing subscribers. And do you know why forum and channel owners care to have traffic so much? Number 4. Monetizing. Back in the old days, there weren't commercials in forums or videos. Not many cared about making money out of their hobby, and even those who did weren't making much either. But not anymore. Now you can make a small fortune if your content attracts a lot of people. You need to mind a lot how you behave or what you do, so you can have a lot of traffic and thus make lots of money. Sadly, this is what everybody else who is getting in the community is eventually thinking as well, and he goes for the following. Number 5. Mimicking the tops. Back in the old days, there were far fewer YouTubers, with each one feeling very different, because they would develop their style individually. They had nothing specific to follow since there was no measure to tell what would increase traffic. Even the biggest channels would have only a few thousand subscribers at the most, so it felt like they were luckier than more successful, next to those who only had a few hundred. But not anymore. There are now thousands of channels, blogs, sites, and each one of them is trying to monetize its content. The biggest of them have hundreds of thousands of followers, so it's very easy to tell the gap between what attracts people and what doesn't. Every new person who wants to start doing something quickly mimics the style of the most popular and successful as means to get big as well. As a result, most channels are now samey, doing mostly chapter reviews or top lists because that is what gets the most traffic, and they make them in a very similar style. Number 6. No longer that niche. The simple fact that there are far more channels, blogs and sites is a reason of its own. The more mainstream something becomes, the less special it feels. Call it dorky and closed-minded if you like, but when there were only a few hundred anime fans with nobody else knowing or caring about anime, those fans had a far more personal relationship with their hobby, as well as with each other. Nowadays, that importance has thinned out considerably. You like something tens of thousands do, your claims will be just another tiny post in a sea of opinions, and you will be constantly interacting with new people you have no idea of who they are or what they like. Number 7. Too many alternatives. Not only there are more fans nowadays, but there are also more fandoms. The gaming and Western live-action series in particular have improved so much in recent years that attract the attention of many anime fans, thus making them share their love across different things. Heck, even Western animation like Avatar and Ruby have attracted more anime fans than most recent new anime. There wasn't much of that in past times. Things were far more one-sided and absolute. Nothing could be better than anime. Cartoons are shit, and live action is fake looking. Even I, who loved JRPGs, was only fanboying over anime series and wished for anime adaptations of video games, not the other way around. You can say older fans were far more childish and naive, while newer fans are more open-minded and cool-headed, but that is also what makes them less committed to their hobby. It's too easy to get bored and drop it if you have many other alternatives. Number 8. Anime got worse. Not only there are too many alternatives, but anime in overall are not as fun as they used to be. This is not evident for newer fans, of course, so you need to take my word for it when I say their quality is dropping since 2007. More and more series are made every year, and most of them are very shitty and target the lowest common denominator. In the meantime, the annual amount of good titles doesn't increase analogically. Number 9. Anime got stigmatized. They were always stigmatized, of course, but now it's far worse. Back in the old times, nobody who wasn't into anime knew what they were or just assumed that they were kid stuff. They just ignored anime fans as man-children. Nowadays, anime are far more commonplace, and most non-fans have the idea that they are all sleazy and perverted. Thus they think anime fans are all creeps and future rapists. You can thank television for making a spectacle every time something negative happens because of one fan who immediately brands everybody else as if they are all equally insane. And you can also thank porn sites, who now have their hentai section, which is the only thing non-anime fans ever bother to check out. And finally, number 10. Anime became cheap. Back in the old days, anime were way more expensive. If you were buying something, it meant you were either rich or totally hardcore. But not anymore. You can casually buy a couple of titles without even caring about the content. Heck, just the fact that you can pirate or stream them for free has cheapened their importance next to having to pay for them. Oh yes, it's so cool that we now don't have to pay or pay much less, but the simple fact that they are so easy to access is what makes them less rare and thus less important. I hope you now understand why many of you think I am a troll or plain obnoxious. I am simply an eccentric old-style fan in a sanitized new-style world who refuses to adjust to the times, because I like the old style. My videos are cheaply made, they are not flashy AMVs with zero content. I don't do everything for money, since I am aware top lists are getting far more views, and yet I don't do that. And also, I am not trying to be one of the same as most others, since whatever I am saying has a style of its own and it's my honest opinion. So don't expect me to say Ping Pong is the best anime of the year, because that is not what I believe, and I don't care about your downvotes. If you want to hear nothing but positive stuff for every episode that comes out, go watch for Neverworld. I am a critic, I criticize stuff. That's what I'm here to do! And if you don't like that and wanna go for popularity, you can always mimic Mysticronexia.
Recently, there have been dozens of videos about the drama in the anime community, and many propose to stick together as one big happy family, instead of arguing amongst us and fragmenting a community we waited so long to grow and finally stop hiding our fondness for the medium. Why can't we be friends like we used to?
Mom, there's some old Greek man that's bald
Mom, the guy's weird.
Those who say that seem to forget how smaller and simpler things used to be many years ago. When I was growing up, we didn't have Facebook or YouTube to announce ourselves out there and seek more people with similar interests. You would be very lucky if by complete accident you had found a single anime fan in a village, or more than a handful in a city. Of course, and you would be best buddies if the only people who liked your hobby could be counted in one hand.
What is this bullshit? Seriously, who does this guy think he is, Mom?
For decades, anime fans were complaining about anime not being more popular, and them being mocked for liking them. Now that their wish is granted, they don't realize the negative side of having a huge and more mainstream community. The more people a community has, the higher the number of idiots, trolls, and cringe generators said community is going to have.
Why are you treating your subscribers this way? What has happened to your channel?
You also don't have to tolerate such people anymore, since you can choose anyone else out of a pool of tens of thousands. Your tolerance for bullshit shortens a lot when you have more options. I remember my parents not buying me a PlayStation when it first came out, so I had to pay a visit to the only other guy in my village who had a PlayStation and was playing JRPGs. He was a stinky antisocial asshole, but I had to tolerate his bullshit because he was the only person I could play with and talk about role-playing games. As soon as I bought a PlayStation and found less cringy people with similar interests, I stopped talking to him. Dick move, but I had to move to greener pastures eventually.
I've been a loyal subscriber to this guy since 2013. He doesn't care what I want.
Another thing to keep in mind is how the amount of different opinions and tastes increases exponentially as a community grows. Before the coming of the big three, I only knew of 3 other anime fans and we all loved to talk about Dragon Ball Z and Final Fantasy VII. There was nothing else rivaling them at the time.
Posted 26 random videos. None of them had anything to do with what I want.
When I eventually joined anime forums and began going to anime meetings, I came face to face with people who liked completely different things. The big 3 alone had divided us into 3, then came Elfen Lied and Haruhi and Code Geass to divide us even further. We were all anime fans and yet fans of completely different series. Which makes sense, by the way. Can you imagine everybody being Narutards in a medium with 10,000 titles?
Mommy made sarcastic videos about what I want.
The reason there was no drama for a few years was because each group was an echo chamber that didn't care about what the other echo chambers were doing. This changed when we finally began having anime parties, cosplay competitions, and people reviewing anime more seriously. Things began to get messy when money got in the way. When you spend a lot on a specific manga series, you buy the costume, you pay the convention ticket, and you get money for making videos, you are going to be a lot more vocal about what you like. You will also not stay silent when the series you consider the best is not considered to be the best by someone else because he considers a different series to be the best. And that's when the drama began.
Mom, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna send him death threats over the internet, Mom. That's what I'm gonna do.
Personally, I am fine with arguments and drama. It keeps things interesting and gives me topics for videos. And since I get paid for making videos, I don't want them to stop anytime soon. Regardless of how you feel about that, I need to clarify something. When I am attacking or criticizing, I focus on the reasoning of a series or a person, not the series or a person directly, which is often considered being the same thing since we are the sum of our opinions and tastes. When someone dislikes a show we like, it's easy to take it personally, because he makes us feel we are wrong for liking what we like. And when someone attacks something we said, it's easy to assume he's calling us idiots.
And I'm gonna troll him. That's what I'll do, Mom.
And here is where critical thinking comes into play. Defending your opinions is one thing. Name-calling and appealing to emotion is another. Although drama and fragmentation are inevitable, you can at least avoid making a fool of yourself by not excusing everything based on personal enjoyment.
I'll make a fake Twitter account, Mom. That'll really piss him off, won't it? That'll teach him.
He didn't say anything!
Let's be perfectly honest. I've completely lost my mind. Just keep drinking more and more, getting more and more shit-faced. Totally lost control over what's going on with my life. I'm ashamed of myself. Got drunk, and I did so knowing full well that you just want to hear the cadence of my speaking. As a psychotic egomaniac, which is accurate. I'm just so bored with everything happening that I just need to mix things up by starting a forest fire. If I'm gonna be stuck in my room with nothing going on, I'm going to make a big rant about all these anime YouTubers all day, and that'll be my life from now on, because I just don't care anymore, and I've totally lost it. And it perpetuates a machine by which I get what I want, which is always the megalomaniacal center of my videos, none of which are important, huge waste of your time. I don't know what we've gained from it. I might as well cause a total shit fit while I'm in the process. Is very relative to the fact that I am currently in a downward spiral of depression and barreling towards alcoholism at the moment. I don't know what the hell is going on with me right now. Hopefully something happens with my life.
There are people claiming intellectual authority and intellectual legitimacy that they do not have by virtue of calling themselves reviewers when they clearly are not reviewers.
And this anime follows the story of a guy named Satoru who has something he refers to as revival. He'll be walking around in everyday life and suddenly get a flash forward of something that's going to happen.
A reviewer is not someone who summarizes the material that they read. If all you're doing is summarizing something you've read, then you're merely regurgitating the material. You're not reviewing it.
And it's pretty awesome. In fact, this is my favorite anime that I've seen.
If your review is merely reducible to the things you either like or don't like, then you're not a reviewer.
I thought about this quite a bit before turning on the camera for this review. I can't think of an anime that I've liked more within the past 10 years, really.
A reviewer is not someone who simply gives their thoughts.
Erased is that good. It's a very taut, gripping psychological thriller, but it also has a really great sense of humor.
You have a false sense of intellectual authority and legitimacy that you do not deserve and which you have not earned. Being a reviewer comes with a certain amount of intellectual cachet.
Really touching and actually extremely emotionally affecting. It really surprised me, and I can't believe I'm actually sitting here reviewing this.
This diminishes the work that real reviewers do by being placed in a context alongside intellectually dissimilar work.
Because I watch tons of new anime, and I tend to focus more on anime that I've seen in theaters when I do videos like this, but whenever I see an anime that impacts me as much as this one did, I can't help but share my thoughts with it.
It conditions the audience to have unrealistic expectations of what a review is supposed to be. If someone who's a blogger names their videos as reviews, and then they come to someone else who labels their videos as reviews, but those are real reviews, they'll say, what the hell's going on?
Satoru's mom in this show is probably my favorite anime mom ever. She is the best mom, like you could ever have.
I had people in the comments section, oh, this is just anime and manga. Why you taking this shit so seriously? Oh, you're overanalyzing this shit. It's not that serious, bro. It was precisely because people conflated reviewers and bloggers that I got this response.
Although it is kind of dark, the show has a great way in maintaining a light tone while also being a coming-of-age story, although our main character has already technically come of age because he's an adult in a kid's body.
On one hand, people who like anime and manga want their hobby to be taken seriously. But on the other hand, they make the claim that anime and manga isn't serious. You can't on the one hand claim that your hobby needs to be validated and then claim that people who try to validate your hobby are taking the shit too seriously.
Even the more creepy aspects of the story are handled with maturity.
Fuck your opinions. Your opinions do not matter to me.
I am going to be as honest as I want to be, even if my opinion is sharp, even if it's an opinionated video, even if many will disagree with me and I lose viewership and many unsubscribe. I'd rather feel better about myself and say what I truly feel than lying to everyone else and being dishonest and gaining more viewership and gaining more subscribers.
People talk about honesty, so let's be honest. Chibi Reviews isn't a reviewer. Double 4 Anime, not a reviewer. Forever World, not a reviewer. These guys are vloggers and or bloggers. They're not reviewers. The problem with Chibi Reviews wasn't that he was not honest. His first mistake was to assume that he was a reviewer when he really was not a reviewer at all.
Buy movie tickets directly from your phone before the film starts. You can pre-order concessions even, skip the line. All of your friends can buy tickets for one movie you're going to, but you can set it up so that you can all pay separately.
One of the many things newer anime fans differ from older is their much shorter attention span. They can't stay focused on something for more than a few minutes without fondling their phones or doing something else on a different tab on their computers. This is not a mental illness caused mostly by microwaves or a bad diet. It's one of the side effects of the internet. It allows multitasking no matter where you are, and by extension it becomes an easy distraction from whatever you are doing. Before smartphones and online games, boredom was a completely different experience. You were forced to focus on what was going on. If that was not working, you would fall asleep or take a walk before you continue being focused on the same one thing once again. This still happens even today, but it's done a lot more often exactly because you are given the option to multitask. Doing only one activity nowadays tires you much faster than it would have 20 years ago. It sounds like it's not much of an issue, yet it is when it comes to retro titles. The pacing in older shows and movies is way slower than it is today. Not that many things are happening in every minute. This wasn't making them boring, it was mostly about setting the mood. The famous elevator scene in Neon Genesis was not just a cheap way to save money by having the characters standing still and not saying anything. It was also done to show how distant they were from each other. Such scenes were very commonplace in previous decades and were an easy form of immersion. By staring at something for many seconds, you are eventually absorbed in it. This can no longer work today because audiences grow impatient. If something doesn't happen every 5 seconds, they will take out their smartphones and begin scrolling on Facebook or play some mindless game. They refuse to be immersed and thus never feel the atmosphere of the title in question. Which is why modern movies and series are so full of constant explosions and people running and screaming and scenes changing every 5 seconds. Nothing lasts a lot because people will be distracted by the lack of pretty colors. And exactly because nothing lasts a lot, it feels hollow and superficial in the eyes of older viewers like me. Whenever I watch something made by Bones, I get a sensory overload right away. It's visually exhausting and has no intention of saying something specific for more than a few seconds. I mean, yes, you can overthink it all you like and find 1,000 stuff to write about, but when you are watching it, your mind goes blank. There is no time to understand anything to the point of becoming hollow and tiresome. Some of you will probably say that I'm getting old or that I am not used to multitask like younger people. My brain is too slow and unable to keep up with the super fast brains of the newer generation. Slow is not the same as being stupid, proof of which are the videos I've been making all these years. If anything, I consider thinking too fast to be scatterbrained ideas with no actual effort put into them, which in the long run becomes superficial and idiotic. And what do you know? That is exactly what I think of modern anime. So full of random ideas with no effort put into them, because they are too busy jumping from one thing to another every few minutes. They are full of time skips and character rewrites, which modern viewers are not noticing because they are too busy playing Candy Crush instead of noticing the transitions. Older shows were simple and slow, easy to understand them, and had no distractions when you were watching them. And although there are many new shows with fast pacing and looked into themes, the striking majority is all over the place. They don't know what they are doing, rushing to go over plots for the sake of moving to the next plot they will also rush. Older and simpler shows end up having far better writing. This is one of the many reasons I consider modern to be inferior to retro. People can no longer stay focused and overthink something they see for a few seconds while scrolling through Facebook and randomly connecting irrelevant shit they happen to bump onto while doing so. And all that because these plebs have short attention spans. Final Fantasy VIII is a pile of... Oh wait, that's negative, I cannot say it.
However, yeah. Don't get me wrong, I really like Final Fantasy.
I I would completely avoid ever saying anything harsh. I just, wouldn't say nothing. I couldn't be honest about things I disliked. Many people on YouTube hate honesty. Any YouTuber that has a very harsh, opinionated video tend to lose viewership. Obviously, the YouTuber will want to avoid that. The YouTuber would rather be completely dishonest and say something that everybody wants to hear instead of what people don't want to hear, because that would mean that he would get more viewership, which would mean that he would be able to afford to be living like he is right now. YouTube puts food on the table. That's the cold, hard truth. He'd rather be dishonest than honest if it means that he will not lose viewership, and also would mean that he would not lose subscribers, but instead gain them.
Many titles have a backlash reaction to the initial popularity. If they are praised at first, then they are hated. If they are hated at first, then they are praised. And in some cases, there is even a backlash to the backlash.
This guy uploaded a video called Anime I Fucking Hate.
Fuck Code Geass!
I decided that I had no choice but to defend the honor of Code Geass.
There is nothing wrong in offering counter-arguments. In fact, it is improving critical thinking, something which our community lacks considerably.
I fucking love slice of life anime. If you ask me why I love it, I honestly couldn't give you a straight answer. I just kinda do for some reason.
I don't really know shit about Fate Stay Night. Sure, it was kinda ridiculously slow and not that much happened, but it was unbelievably gorgeous to look at.
The thing is, critical thinking came to be a synonym to ridiculously long videos. People seem to think that the longer you talk, the better your arguments are. Do we really need an hour-long video in order to make a point? Couldn't it be shortened by taking out some unnecessary parts? There are many who accuse my videos of being too short, and few seem to realize that I am simply going straight to the point. I am not procrastinating by going in circles and repeating myself.
Talking about the series, a lot of series-themed series, and about the series. The art style of the series, dying in the series towards the end of the series.
Even if I had spent an hour in analyzing something, the result would be the same, since I would have simply stretched my point unnecessarily. More wordy examples wouldn't make any difference, since there would be slight variations of my initial claim. I am not a person who aims to brainwash people into accepting what I have to say by constantly repeating the same thing until it gets planted subconsciously into their brains.
He's just reaching for something positive to say to justify the fact that he enjoyed this episode, but really he just keeps repeating himself and he keeps saying unnecessary words like but however, and like saying the same things over and over and over again about how you don't like fan service, about the art style, the style of it is appealing. I also like the art style.
And yes, I do repeat the same one-liners in most of my videos, but they are spread apart and are often used as epilogues across different topics instead of the same one that is constantly repeating itself.
Because they're actually weekly. The fact that it is weekly, because they're weekly, is the fact that they're weekly. And again, that's because they're weekly.
As much as I am pleased to see the community having more critical channels than in the past, it's also time to start being more laconic in what we are trying to say or show, instead of keep believing longer videos are better than shorter ones.
You can be long-winded and concise. I often get accused by that anime snob.
But that anime snob whose videos are all under 10 minutes long and he gives me lots of shit for my videos being longer.
And he often says that, like, brevity is the soul of wit and stuff like that.
Wow, he's so smart, dude. He's so smart.
His videos are just 20-second segments from other people's videos. Like, what does he even do?
Well, that's the thing, is that he keeps his stuff so short that he never makes a point. And it's not that he's necessarily concise, it's just that he's brief.
And so the point here is you have to be making a real point in order to be concise, and if that is lacking, then you're just being brief, I guess.
Yeah, it's how much useful, interesting, worthwhile shit is packed in per minute or
it's like
per
the density.
unit of
Conciseness
media.
measures the density of your topic.
And like, whereas that anime snob will often take a lot of different points and make individual videos about all of them, I'll just put them all in one. I'm not being concise, I'm just making a lot of points in a row. Those videos are fairly long individually, but it's because they're going through all of the points that I thought needed to be in one video. It's kind of like 5 that anime snob videos in one video.
The real problem at the end of the day with anime snob is that the entire video is a waste of time because he's just wrong. He is just wrong.
That's the worst part. Like, don't take this as me in any way endorsing the way he does things. Like, his style of video could make sense. It's just that he's literally retarded.
Yeah.
Unless of course you do it for the money, since videos get more revenue if they are about 10 minutes.
As you could see, I'm pretty, yeah.
I have nothing against the counter-arguments, and this guy defending Code Geass has made his points. But he didn't need more than half the time to do it, and it doesn't take more than a few seconds to say Code Geass is shit.
Please make the royalty checks out to that anime snob who could have said everything you just said in 3 fucking minutes.
If you break down Arcada's 10-minute review of Made in Abyss, you get this. The first 2 minutes are just him reading the synopsis, which has nothing to do with reviewing. The next 2 minutes are about stating the hook of the premise, which again has nothing to do with reviewing. Another 2 minutes are just him praising the characters as amazing, because they look cute and horrible things are happening to them. Meaning you like them because they suffer, and not because they have much of a personality or a backdrop. So essentially he didn't say a thing. It's the stuff that happened to them, not the stuff about them. Another minute is praising the story for being unfinished, because it leaves you hopeless and hopeful at the same time. Meaning, it's relativistic bullshit. He stated both cases without taking a stance, so he will please both sides of an argument. This is not lack of bias, it's plain dodging of criticism.
I take a stand. On what exactly? The issues of the day. Which are? The things that concern you and your family the most.
Another minute is praising the production values, which are obviously good, I can't deny that. This is reviewing, but it's about something completely obvious.
Spouting a bunch of meaningless platitudes. Sure enough, the people are lapping it up like milk.
Another minute is how much he loves the show, which, yes, he's stating his opinion, but he didn't give many good reasons for it.
If this thing is going to work, we are all going to have to make it work. You may remember it. It's called America.
And the last minute is just about where you can watch or buy the show, recommendations of other similar shows, and the shilling of his Patreon, which again have nothing to do with reviewing.
They didn't say anything!
So basically his 10-minute review is 40% useless synopsis and premise, 40% meaningless relativistic nonsense, and 20% of actual reviewing where he is stating the obvious without excusing it much. It's basically a cheap advertisement and a recommendation based on unsupported hype, with no value as far as analysis or criticism are concerned.
America!
In contrast, my 4-minute overview of the show is 100% analysis and criticism and got a lot of downvotes because what kind of a horrible person would make a video about a popular show he doesn't like?
If we pick some faceless person to be responsible for all our problems, we won't have to accept any responsibility at all. They didn't say anything!
2018 is already looking to be a very good year because the first day of 2018 we have
the same shit you're giving us in 2017. Or any other year.
It's around 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not gonna wait until 10 o'clock to record this.
Rushing to be the first to talk about it? I wonder why.
This first episode made me very happy, and the reason for that is because
you get all the views for being the first to talk about it.
I want to do it now because I just finished the episode.
Making a video the instant you finish an episode without first clarifying your thoughts? I wonder what kind of an effect this is gonna have.
I want to make a video. This was just too good to talk about.
Don't you mean too good not to talk about?
It's around 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not gonna wait until the morning.
It's morning, but you're not gonna wait until morning.
I want to, see what you guys think about it as well.
I think you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
From what I can remember, it followed the original source. I could be not remembering things because, like I said, it's been a while.
You don't even remember what you watched!
When did Season 1 come out? I haven't actually looked myself. I could be misremembering because it has been a while.
You still talk about it just for the views!
Anyways, let's get into the content. The details are a little bit fuzzy.
You got no content because you don't remember what you watched!
And definitely a good start to 2018.
Oh, what a great start.
The level of quality, I can't believe it. Big warning, if you're not into seeing things like that, you might want to steer clear from here. Horrendous Devilman Crybaby. We're only a week into the new year, and it's already the best anime of the year. Great, nice start. I'm not saying that it is. We still have, the entire year in order to make that judgment. Whoa, what happened? Everybody's talking about it, trying to make a lot of profit. For crying out loud. Netflix, I think, are starting to redeem themselves. What is going on here? I think it was Will Smith's son. This is just crazy. That did that Neo Yokio anime or whatever it was called. This is really, really fucked up. Now, in case you don't know, Insane Devilman Crybaby is based off of, I believe it was just called Devilman. They did have an anime adaptation, but I don't think it went over that well. It blew my mind. Netflix original, if I'm not mistaken. What you guys think about all this? This is probably like a 70s manga, I'd imagine, or 60s manga, somewhere around there. Late 80s, somewhere mid 80s, I can't really remember. Holy shit, I don't know if it's billions or not, but I know hundreds of millions, I think, were invested. It's crazy. I hope they do a season 2. I don't know if season 1 does the whole Devilman manga. I'd imagine not. Bow. Starting off 2018, we get something to this degree.
Oh, what a great start.
He didn't say anything!
This is a 5-minute analysis of a show that ended a decade ago. These are my 5-minute thoughts of a super popular series that ended recently. These are my 10-minute feels of a single episode of an airing series. These are my 15-minute speculations for what I assume will happen in the next episode based on the preview of the current episode. This is my 20-minute pre-airing hype for what I predict will happen in the upcoming episodes based on the spoilers of the TV summaries. These are my half-an-hour random ramblings of an unconfirmed rumor I found on a message board that might or might not happen in the near future, so who knows? This is my 1-hour overthinking of something I don't know what it means, and I'm not going to do any research, but I assume it means something. I could be wrong, unless I'm mistaken. Just comment anything you like. Doesn't matter what the topic is about. You don't care what I have to say anyways. You're just looking for an excuse to kill your boredom by talking about anything. I'm just gonna stand here for the next 2 hours, doing nothing, just so I can abuse the algorithm for all it's worth. Okay, this is how you run a successful business on YouTube. First, you make a video every time you hear about a rumor, and you make sure not to double check if it's true, while you're adding as much speculation as possible. This way you can abuse the algorithm by making the video 10 times longer than it needs to be, and you give the viewers enough fuel for posting theories for days that will quadruple the view count. Then you make a video every time something's announced but not confirmed, and you make sure not to check the details so you can again speculate about it, abuse the algorithm, and give the viewers fuel for posting theories that will quadruple the views. Then you make a video every time something is confirmed, so you can pretend you were right all along, when all you did was regurgitating what others already said. You again don't check the details about the production, and you ask your audience to post their expectations for abusing the algorithm and generating 4 times as many views by not bothering to provide any actual information about the production. Then you make a video where you pretend you look into the details of the source material, and you spend several minutes in reading stuff from a wiki, while still pretending not to know what is going on in the show, and while not confirming any of the shit you wasted the whole video on is actually going to be in the damn series. Because that doesn't matter. You just want to impress your audience by telling them random nonsense so they can speculate and make you lots of views. Then you make a video when your audience has a good grasp of what the show will be about, and they don't like all the bullshit in it. You make sure not to state what you actually think about it, and you make sure to add might in the title, so everything can be vague enough for no one to be offended, and everyone to speculate if the worries are justified, thus managing to talk a lot about something without providing any actual insight on the matter, and leaving the others to generate you lots of juicy views. Then you make a video reaction to the trailer of the series, where you disregard everything your audience was complaining about, and you pretend it's the most amazing thing ever. And you make sure you add as many clickbaity words in the title, even if they make no sense when placed in the same sentence, because you want to get as many views as possible out of simply spazzing at an effortless cash grab. Then you make a video review, which is not really a review since all you're doing is going gaga over the shameless fan service, and you are proving wrong in everything you were speculating in all the previous videos you made about it, while trying your best to make the video last more than the duration of the actual episode. And finally, after your audience hates this bullshit you were hyping for months and got fed up with your crap, only then you make another video where you magically admit it was bullshit all along, since you always want to agree with the majority instead of saying the truth from the very beginning. If you had provided actual information instead of deliberately being vague so you can make worthless long videos full of hyping trash and theory crafting. and then you go back to talking about rumors and you start all over again. That's how you maintain a healthy YouTube channel. You don't make short, educational videos that don't lose the purpose they were made for after a few days because the speculations were proven wrong. You just produce trash and you constantly change your mind depending on what the majority is saying.
Tournament! He didn't say anything!
Chibi was finally kicked out of his parents' house and is now living all alone in a shack out in the boonies. That's the result of relying too much on YouTube for a living. It is possible to make a career out of it, but just like everything else, it follows the law of diminishing returns. You can only keep doing the same thing over and over again before eventually the profit you make is not worth the time you invest in it. It happened with Telltale Games, it will happen with everyone else who doesn't change his repertoire and keeps saying absolutely nothing of substance in every single video. Along with that, it's also scary when you consider how much YouTube has changed as a concept in just a decade. For anyone who still remembers, initially it was a platform where everyone was free to express himself, with not many restrictions in content. When monetization came along, this changed completely because you weren't that free anymore. In order to maximize your profit, you had to focus on anything that is popular at the moment, and you had to say what the majority expects you to say. So everything became a huge echo chamber. Then came Adpocalypse, and everyone who was living off YouTube was even less free because he became dependent on donations from his fans and sponsorship from whatever he was talking about. He wasn't appealing to the majority anymore. He was trying to maintain whatever audience he created by becoming a slave to whatever they want to hear and what they want to see. Nothing is about you anymore, it's about pandering whoever pays you money. And that's how we reached the point where people are living in shacks out in the boonies and are constantly begging for money so they can say and do whatever they are being paid to say and do. They changed from people who are making money out of commercials that play outside of a video to people who make money by including commercials in a video. And if you think that was the end of it, it's not. It will eventually become even worse. The latest anti-meme regulation gives everyone the right to slap a copyright infringement on anything that is not sponsored. Basically, you won't even have the choice not to make money by talking about something that by your own choice won't be sponsored. You know how people can turn off monetization from any video that is too exploitive if it's making money out of the misery of others? They will take even that away. You won't be allowed to talk about something unless you are being paid to say it. Because the moment you show footage of any kind that is not there as paid product placement, wham! Copyright infringement. Get the hell away from YouTube. This is not a place where you are free to express yourself. Which is also what proves the hypocrisy behind everyone who promotes nothing but positive thinking and actively avoids criticizing the negative aspect of a product, while at the same time labeling anyone who is being critical as a hater and a troll. By being positive all the time, you reach a point where you live in a shack out in the boonies, and you are still telling yourself there is nothing wrong with the world.
Everything is okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to like it. If not, then that's fine too. There's no wrong or right way to do things.
He didn't say anything!
The brightness of the bouquet, which we can assume was a going-away present, could potentially find comforting or hard to leave, and contrast the darkness of her outfit, which helps emphasize how out of place and distant she feels from the rest of that community.
Or it's a bunch of flowers! Another new year, another new season, another reset. Time to forget everything we learned in the previous season. Remember what a cool idea it was for One Piece to have a soft reboot after every arc, so things can go back to square one? Well now, everyone does it in every show even if it wasn't intended by the show itself.
The anime is constantly referencing flowers, named after the flower, and then there's Iris as well as the flower kingdoms. The flowers that it shows us are specifically purple. Flowers are emblematic of nature, and that Violet's name constantly connects her very being to nature.
After the curse of the seasonal watching became a thing, every 3 months we get a restart. Just because it's the beginning of a new season. Whatever happened in previous arcs does not matter, like in the case you see right here. One guy saying SAO is still bullshit because he remembers the previous seasons, and the reply he gets is, "Be patient, we are still in the beginning of the arc. There are 60 episodes out, and we are still in the beginning.
You see the flowers and you see the paper airplane right next to Shinohara. It adds a little bit of like hidden meaning there.
You want another example? This guy refers to the bunny fetish as the monogatari of our time. And by our time, he means the current season. Since Monogatari is still not over, but since that was in the previous season, it's like it was a different century or something.
Like a penguin's call, it really is a versatile thing. It's a penguin squawk.
This is why critical thinking is dead. When you disregard everything that happened just a few months ago, you are left with a bunch of new shows that are nothing special, but since you need to somehow explain why you like them, you keep making up bullshit excuses, such as it's subversion, it's deconstruction, it's something we've never seen before. And it obviously is all those stuff. If you keep getting amnesia every 90 days and forget how you watch the exact same things every freaking season...
The whole hair color thing, it has a lot of weight, directly leads into where she beds Kaneki. That is very vital. It just shows that they truly don't really understand or comprehend what Tokyo Ghoul is really about, the blue hair.
And I understand why it's happening. When you have 50 airing anime plus dozens more of movies, cartoons and live-action series, it can be very confusing for the average viewer to keep track of all that shit. So you make up reasons for why this brand new thing deserves your attention, thus becoming a victim of recency bias.
The most interesting piece of symbolism in the series for me is the scars, visual testaments to their own shortcomings and hang-ups. Scars are a perfect fit for the ideas he puts forward in it.
This series breaks the genre's mold.
So let's keep that in mind the next time someone tries to make cute girls doing cute things to somehow be the most original thing ever conceived in the history of animation.
The symbolic representation of the struggler were on a more or less equal footing.
The era of hands is over. The era of feet has just begun.
This topic on Reddit is a reminder of how hollow seasonal hype really is. No matter how much people are praising a show while it's airing, almost all of it is gone the moment it stops airing. How can something be amazing only while it's airing and then be completely forgettable after it's over? Because it was never about how good it actually was. It was always about a bunch of people feeling comfort by overpraising something that a lot of other people are currently watching. It doesn't matter what, they just want to be part of something and feel nice about themselves by being very positive about it. After all, you can't love something if you're critical, am I right? Wrong. You care about something when you are critical about it. If you don't care and are positive for the sake of being positive, then you don't really love it. You just want people to pat you in the back for liking what they like. And the best way to do that is by liking anything that is popular and still airing, since that is what attracts the most people, thus increases the chances of you getting likes, positive comments, and Patreon money. You can be positive about shows that ended, but since by default much fewer people follow reviews or videos of something after it's over, then you have much smaller chances of getting rewarded. If you want me to be more specific, the main reasons far fewer people care about a completed title are: Number 1. They also just wanted to be rewarded, therefore they also didn't care about the show and only wanted to feel nice by patting each other in the back. It's all one big hug box of people who don't give a shit about what they consume. Number 2. They were watching the show for finding out what will happen next. It was all about the excitement of anticipating the next thing. When there is no next thing, they don't feel excited anymore, and instantly jump to the next thing, so they will keep being excited. Again, quality doesn't matter. Number 3. Most people don't like spoilers and consider partial reviews as recommendations. Full reviews are often scaring them because they tend to reveal information about the outcome, instead of just luring you in with the premise. And 4. Most people like spoilers a lot less than they used to up until 2 decades ago, when anime were far more expensive and were sold in DVDs with 3 episodes each costing about $40 a piece. Unless you were willing to pay $300 with these, you wouldn't be buying a box set without being kind of spoiled about its quality first. So with all that, you see why reviewing in the community has died out to the most part. With the current state of affairs, it's not worth talking about completed titles, much less being negative about them. At the same time, you have a good reason for why analysis videos blew up in popularity.
Aside from being a more elaborate way to overpraise something and be rewarded for seemingly having more credibility when you are talking a lot about something, you are also giving the option to make several topics regarding the same one title, as opposed to making one review without going into many details. When you talk about specific elements of a show instead of the show as a whole, you are essentially not reviewing a title, but rather evaluate the element and how it works best by using a title as an example. The same video can be used as a case study for any other title that happens to have the same element, therefore it transcends the limitation of being about a title most won't bother to check out once it's completed. Anyone can check it out for the evaluation and the analysis regardless of what it's exactly referring to. And that is why, in the age of seasonals, reviewing got the boot and analysis became the new hot thing. It keeps relevant whatever you are creating for a longer period of time, while at the same time being more demanding in terms of critical thinking. It's usually amounting to pretentious overthinking, but even that is better to mindless fanboying, where the only word someone uses is amazing, masterpiece, and it gave me the feels. This guy over here didn't like my Fist of the North Star video because he wasn't sold into watching it and therefore it was bad. Well, that's strange. Since I wasn't trying to sell you the anime, reviewing is not about selling you a product, and it wasn't a review to begin with. It was an overview about my overall thoughts about the show, the ups, the downs, how it aged, and for what kind of people it's aimed for. I was paid for making it, but I wasn't paid for making you all think it's the best shit ever. The payer knew that, and he wouldn't want it any other way. The reason I am making such a fuss about it is because most plebs nowadays think that the only reason reviews exist is for hyping them up for something. Either for making them be excited for consuming something, or either for confirming their fondness of something they have already consumed. A negative review doesn't make sense to these people, much less a balanced one. And let me make it clear that it was a balanced one, despite me being a fan of the anime. I mentioned what it had that I liked, and what it had that might not make it that good for others. I was being fair, and this guy is making a big fuss about it, because for him it was bad for not being sold into liking the show. Which is pissing me off because he says it in a way that makes it sound like it's what reviewing is all about. It's not about explaining why something is good by comparing it to its contemporaries. It's not about clarifying the historical context under which it became famous at the time it came out. And it's sure not about pointing out it has its problems despite me being a fan of it. No, sir, reviewing is about always being excited, always liking something, and always shilling whatever you're talking about. Like Chibi and his flower symbolisms in Tokyo Ghoul, or the Ogre and his claims of 2021 being the year of Boruto. If that is what you expect me to do with my channel, then the problem is not the way I talk about anime, it's your plebeian mindless consumerism mentality. This video sucks, not for talking negatively about me because I wasn't derping non-stop about an anime I like. It sucks because it misrepresents what proper reviewing is all about. It goes against critical thinking and spreads a false image of what an analyst should be doing. For that reason alone, it deserves to be made fun of. It deserves to be memed and used as another example as to why casuals do not understand what critics are doing, why they hate proper analysis, and why this community is never going to be taken seriously if we let this to keep happening.
It is dark, it is dark, it is dark.
But is it well written?
There's these 5 bullies that are absolutely tormenting him.
Again with the school bullies, you can't have a story without school bullies and their one-dimensional evil behavior, can you now?
Damn near everybody in this manga is batshit crazy. They sexually assaulted him and all sorts of shit.
How does that make them well written?
They write a character really dumb, I mean really fucking stupid, imbecile, idiotic.
How does that make her relatable?
He basically wants to bang her. He basically is so disturbed that he wants to force her to say that it's consensual in order for him to feel good. Like, it's really psychologically fucked up.
Sounds like edge porn to me.
I can't tell if it's deep and there's more to it, or it's just like, holy shit, a shit-fest ride that I can't stop looking at.
As if it's not obviously trash.
These bullies are fucking crazy. Uruma's kinda crazy. That girl is such a fucking bimbo.
But are they well written? written!
You'll read it and you'll love it regardless. Trust me. Go read this shit right now. Did I sell ya on checking this out?
Sure you did, because that's the sole purpose of making videos. Unlike what I did with my Hokuto no Ken video.
Not really selling you on Fist of the North Star. He doesn't really sell you on it. Doesn't really sell you on it. Not good.
It's all about selling your product instead of telling you if it's good or not. Okay then, roll the clip!
Ah, what a great start. Jujutsu Kaisen questions the very ideals of shonen anime, says a trustworthy site like Polygon. Unlike any other shonen, the protagonist has an evil demon inside him that wants to kill his friends and then himself. He doesn't do either of that, just like in any other shonen, but it's a deconstruction! Did I mention how violent it is? There is no such thing as a violent shonen. It is feigning predictability before giving a complex genre-aware punchline. Did I mention how death can be undone just like that, and every battle is just a video game info dump that is never concluded? That's how a shonen questions the very ideals of the shonen genre. Which, by the way, it's not a genre, it's a demographic. Let's check the comments regarding this well-written article. The Jujutsu Kaisen anime is revolutionizing shonen storytelling. Revolutionize is a strong word, ... Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Also, Polygon, LOL! I like the pacing at the beginning, but it has really slowed down. Agreed, I'm still watching it, but I am very quickly changing from "this is amazing" to "oh, another shonen with a protagonist who has demonic powers." If I had $1 for every time a shonen revolutionizes storytelling, ... or better yet, deconstruction. Popular equals revolutionizing after all. Personally, I really like how Black Clover has revolutionized storytelling. I enjoy it, but it's not revolutionizing anything. Polygon article. But you know what's the actually funny thing here? As long as this article makes a lot of people to check out the anime, then it's good, regardless of being outright a lie. After all, reviews and analysis exist only for selling you a product. If they don't sell you a product by trying to be balanced and informative, you get this!
Not really selling you on Fist of the North Star. He doesn't really sell you on it. Doesn't really sell you on it. Not good.
Ah, what a great start.
They didn't say anything!
As I did with every single time a new Jujutsu Kaisen chapter came out, I, using the leaks that come out a couple of days before the official release, did a breakdown of what I thought about chapter 271 of JJK, with 6 or 7 pages that were anything but well translated. And for those of you who are saying, well then Nick, why didn't you just wait until the official release to do your chapter review? If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times on YouTube. If you are not first, you are last. However, because I was using incredibly shoddy leaks, my perception of the final chapter of JJK skewed in a more negative way than I now currently believe. Now that I've read the official release and seen some things that weren't even included in the leaks, I do absolutely feel differently about the ending of this story.
It is like a 5-year-old wrote this fan ending. It is actually unbelievable just how bad this is. This is absolute ass. You know, I'm going to take a page from Tolkien, you know, the author of Lord of the Rings. Evil can not create something new, it can only copy something that already existed. There is a lot of narration within this fan ending chapter, and it really showcases one big aspect from Gege's writing, but also Yoshihiro Togashi, the author of Hunter x Hunter. Narrating isn't as easy as slapping on some words and trying to explain something. Feels very disingenuous, and it feels like you're insulting their intelligence. And so it's really hard to write narration without it making it feel very preachy, or trying to basically say you're so stupid you can't understand this. Gege doesn't do this. He doesn't do that at all. You know, actions speak louder than words sometimes, the way the art and the paneling is. It goes to show that Togashi's usage of narration, like in the Chimera Ant art, for instance, and the latest stuff within Hunter x Hunter, you can see how really good he is as a writer and artist, because he's able to give narration that doesn't feel preachy and doesn't feel like it's insulting people's intelligence. The dialogue and everything that's been poured into this fan ending is just straight up booty cheeks. This is the worst thing I've read this year. I know it's the first day of the year, but it still fits. It still tracks. What a start to 2025, honestly. If this is what I have to expect from this year, oh man, we're in for a ride.
Ah, what a great start.
They didn't say anything!
Do you know a yaoi anime called The 07 Ghost? Chances are you don't, since it's not a good show, it's over 2 years old, and there is very little to say about it anyways. But back when it aired in 2009, it was really hyped up to be some amazing mystery conspiracy thingy. So let's see what the top reviews of Mal have to say about it and how they formulate said claims. Blah blah blah. You're not describing the story, you're describing your enjoyment. It's okay if the story is slow, incomplete, and absolutely bullshit, because you can always rate the manga. Ah, that's more like it. This one clearly tells you what it is. Gay shit which never does anything with its premise. It's correct, because I didn't like it either. 2 lines where you excuse the art being 10 out of 10 because the scenes were pretty and the clothes were badass, even if they were plain ass. There is absolutely nothing amazing about the animation. Proof being, fucking Dean! There is absolutely no blending of background CGI, foreground character animation and visual effects are obviously slapped on. And the scene you're talking about clearly proves that. It's bad CGI. The protagonist is sitting on a pointy rooftop. The tip should have gone deep inside his ass if they had given the minimum attention to physics. Chibi forms when the art style changes a little. If you don't know what it is, don't write it like you don't know what it is. It makes you look stupid. Also, just because the church sceneries look nice for an otherwise bad CGI background, it doesn't mean the show looks amazing. And stop giving commands of the sort, you won't be disappointed. You have no idea how others would feel or should feel about it. I, for example, hated it. I mean, look at this shit. Even a guy with a nickname such as Moe and a cat lolly for an avatar got it right. Ah, that's more like it. Talking about how boring and lame the action scenes were. It's correct because I didn't like it either. 2 lines of excusing the characters being 9 out of 10. One being the same as the story, what? And another one because you can always rate the manga. 3 lines of saying the characters are great because they are cool. Followed by 4 lines of saying there aren't any girls in the show. Ah, that's more like it. Talking about how stereotypically fujoshi bait they were. It's correct because I didn't like it either. So overall, you give it a 9 because the terribly empty and incomplete story is not bad. And then you throw in the lame excuse of keep watching, it gets better, you won't regret it. Not only it never gets better, but you're really ignorant if you actually think all people in the world would love this show. The living proof of this being me. It's outstanding because it's incomplete, but you can always rate the manga. Ah, that's more like it, clearly stating that it's nothing but yaoi admiration. It's correct because I didn't like it either. So now you know which ones deserve to be upvoted and which to be downvoted. By the way, the shitty ones have a 3/4 helpful ratio, that's retarded. And before any of you assholes say that I agree with the negative ones just because I am biased against the show, if you even bothered to read the freaking captions, you would realize I side with the ones which articulated their opinions properly, and it so happened to be the negative ones. Because with properly articulated thoughts, this shitty show can't get a positive review. And if you still don't believe me, here is the same proof for the 3rd time. I will break apart 3 reviews for another. That piece of shit that pretends to be a good horror. The thing is, all 3 of the reviews are very well written, so it's not going to be about pointing out how stupid some are and how good are some others. It will be more about presentation of opinions, since they have a very different style as well as a very different opinion on the anime. Just check out these prologues.
Another was one of those series which had me waiting eagerly for Mondays to arrive and wishing that the weekend would end sooner. For 12 weeks it was my priority above all else to watch this amazing series. If I had to say what makes it so incredible, I would cite the short series length, the clever plot with a brilliant resolution, and outstanding animation.
Another declined to be a series of horror as Higurashi no Naku Koroni, which he desperately tried to compare with and failed. On the other hand, it pulls through with a solid mystery, and the top-notch animation but PA works enhances the suspense throughout the series.
Each person has their own definition of horror depending on how imaginative they might be. While some may immediately think of a bunch of gruesome killings, others may think of a more eerie supernatural events, and the list goes on. Unfortunately, another just happens to fall way outside my definition of horror, as it seems to fit very nicely within comedy.
Hey, what's going on here? Why are they so contradictory? Well, I have watched the anime and I can show you why that happens by simply finding where their opinions differ. Let's start with how they describe the story.
Nothing ruins the story more than confusion caused by an overloaded storyline and a huge ensemble of characters. Here it is simple. One tightly written, carefully thought out storyline involving a relatively small number of characters, which proves surprisingly durable as a 12-episode series. The resolution of the storyline was amazing. It managed to bring all the strands of information which we had gleaned and wrap everything up in a style which was spaced exactly right.
The ending brings all the pieces together, including connections between some of the important characters with horror explanations. The mystery itself is decent and adds on to the horror and suspense for each episode, but it may not please one who searches for complete logic.
Can you really consider another a mystery? For the first 4 episodes, it was all about Koichi figuring out who Mei was. So when we figure out that she's just a normal girl, everything up until this point felt like nothing more than another useless time sink. Until episode 10, what did they actually learn about the another? Nothing of any value. Where's the mystery in that? I don't find random deaths to be mysterious, and this is what the series focused on the entire time. They could have at least devoted more time to actually trying to figure out who the another is rather than waste time with other daily activities.
So, what results do we get if you combine these 3 opinions? The first reviewer claims that the story is good because it has a solid ending where everything is explained. The second reviewer agrees that the ending is solid and the mystery explained, but also mentions it is not logical. And the third reviewer claims that most of the show wasn't really about the characters trying to figure out what was going on, which is true. The whole focus was getting to know the main heroes and to witness random people dying. What is also true is that there were subtle hints which gradually helped to solve the mystery in the end, but the characters don't seem to try piecing them together. It feels more like they are there for the viewer to pick them up, not for the characters in the show, making it indeed a weak mystery show focused more on brutal deaths. So the difference is that the first reviewer didn't care about logic, the second one did but didn't get into details, while the third one not only cared but also pointed out exactly why. Let's go now to artwork and atmosphere.
The art is simply beautiful. The characters aren't that different from any other series, but the backgrounds are amazingly well defined. In almost every scene there's a sense of decay. Everything looks decrepit and rusty. The buildings look deserted, and there's gratuitous use of deep dark reds wherever possible. If it's outdoors, there are crows perched on the roofs looking hungry. If it's indoors like the hospital, then the lights are dim and flickering occasionally.
The blood splatter and gore are on key. The characters' facial expressions brought terror to the screen. The background design is amazing with the dark, gloomy colors to fit the anime's theme. Another's main problem is that it tries way too hard. Creators mock the viewer with quick cuts to dolls between scenes like, "Bro, are you scared yet?" Dark music plays needlessly during conversations, even when the dialogue alone is enough.
If there is any credit I can truly give to another, it's the simple attention to detail that's present in things like the background. Sadly, this is quite easily the strongest point of the series. The atmosphere was great at times, yet seemingly overdone at others. The overbearing OST sounded like an angsty teenager turning their stereo up to over 9,000 in some apparent misguided sense of rebellion against society. It kills any good mood a scene might have been giving off in record time.
So, what results do we get from here? All 3 agree that visually the show is very good, but the second and third point out how the cinematics are overdone. The third also attempts to explain his issues with a comical analogy, which has the same effect as the second, but also brings a smirk to the reader. Now let's see what they have to say about the characters.
Koichi Sakakibara, our horror story-loving main character, seems to have more than half a clue of what's going on, which makes a nice change from the average clueless in-denial character in the horror genre. Mei Misaki develops a bit from the weird loner presented in the first episode to someone who is frustrated by their situation and yet cannot change it. In a sentence, don't judge them too soon.
There is literally nothing special about the cast. They only exist to either contribute to solving the mystery, die off, or both. Koichi is your typical cliché male character, and it's annoying how he gulps or gets frightened before anything actually happens. Misaki is probably the only distinct character with her unique background, and her introverted behavior keeps her mysterious.
So, what exactly was Koichi's role in all of this? Being the protagonist of the series, one would imagine that he would be the one solving the mystery by piecing together the puzzle. Yet he's just as clueless as the rest of the cast. His purpose was finished once he figured out the story of Mei. After this, he, just like anyone else, was tagging along for the ride until the conclusion finally came around. Mei is by far the worst character in this series. There was no real depth to her character, and unlike Koichi, she served no purpose other than actually causing more problems than the another.
To sum it up, there is something good going on with the characters, but it doesn't matter plot-wise. Their characterization is irrelevant to the mystery, and since the deaths are far more captivating, their fleshing out becomes invisible. So let's move to the epilogue.
I recommend you go and watch another now. It's easily the best new release this season and possibly one of the better ones of the year.
If you're looking for a logical mystery, you won't find it. Like other scary movies, you might find the deaths humorous or look past the over-exaggeration with dolls to get a scare. Personally, it was very satisfying for me, but it could have been better. At this point, I think it might be PA Works who is cursed. Every anime they produced has had a strong beginning, a core that gets progressively weaker and ultimately yields a poor conclusion. This trend hasn't changed throughout any of their work, and Another is no different, and became nothing more than another 12 weeks of my life wasted.
And there you have it. The first reviewer is obviously the least good because he looks at things superficially and simply overlooks any negative aspects the show might have had or how it could have been better. This is what makes the second reviewer more creditable, but also dry for sticking too much to the facts. And this is why the third reviewer is the best, since he throws in jokes and examples, and is also not afraid to make fun of a show he didn't like, making it enjoyable to read even if he is negative about it. That takes balls and makes it by far the best. Thank you for agreeing with me! Arpeggio of Blue Steel is one of those shows which will forever be remembered as that bad CGI anime with the battleships turning into girls. Well, there obviously are far more things going on in it, but who cares? You will remember it just for that, since it is ensnared in the middle of the Uncanny Valley effect. It also happens to be a show with polarized opinions, not because many watched it and they were confused by its thought-provoking themes. This is no Neon Genesis. It is just that most didn't bother to watch more than a few episodes because of its terrible CGI, and the few who watched it to the end were fooled to think it's great for all the wrong reasons. Let's go over a positive and a negative review to show you what I mean, starting with their views on the CGI. CG and cute girls were made for each other, haters be damned. Arpeggio boasts some extremely high quality rendering, the coloring blends well, and they hit the brightness level just perfectly, and that's not even counting in the outstanding character designs. And then you try to watch the show and it looks like shit. Look how robotic and fake it looks. Here is the negative and far more realistic description. The ocean is rendered as a noxious purple-black cloud, which bears shockingly little resemblance to a body of water. The characters always have the same pale, waxy complexion and widely spaced eyes. Add some extraordinary stiff animation. All characters move with an awkward, jerking hobble. All ships move at a shuddering crawl. And frankly, you'd be hard-pressed to tell who is supposed to be human and who is supposed to be a member of the more robotic fog. They all look equally like paste-colored marionettes. This condition is only worsened by the show's repeated attempts to force its decidedly mechanical characters to do something sexy. It's like watching aliens awkwardly attempt to imitate aspects of human sex appeal. Thoroughly repulsive. And since he mentions the girls, let's look what is said about those. The Fleet of the Fog have a set of logical reasoning they follow called the Admiralty Code, which start a question that suddenly gives these formerly one-dimensional characters a lot of depth. Without these, the members of the Fog would be nothing more than your casual, unknown evil group trying to take over the world. Their presentation to the physical gives Arpeggio much room to express itself as something much more than a simple war story. Arpeggio is quite serious and even takes darker routes towards its conclusion, but as to why the Fog members decided to pick up female archetypes is still something up for debate. Something up for debate? You really think there is more reason other than the producers wanting to sell cute girls to otakus by making moe out of lifeless weapons which killed billions of people? You sure are dense there. Anyways, here is the negative view on that. There is never a convincing reason given regarding why they suddenly adopt emotions and human values. If you present characters as machines and then they suddenly sprout the mindset of normal human beings for no real reason, it defeats the entire narrative purpose of presenting them as machines in the first place. It essentially strips the characters of their distinguishing features and adds a bit of insincerity to everything that they go through. Yeah, we never got a good reason for that. Yet how does the positive guy excuse that? As its source material is still ongoing, this might be something we can willingly forgive. They adapted the manga before it is complete so they can advertise it and sell more volumes, and you forgive them for that? Well, I'm not. Another feature many seem to like in this show is its smart battles. The series can also be praised for its sound sense of tactical warfare, as the battles take a balanced approach between stratagem and action orientation. Yeah, and when you look closer, what do you actually see happening in the battles?
Wait for the enemy to fire a bunch of torpedoes at us, then dodge them, then fire back, and hope it works. Battles are regularly concluded with solutions that appear out of nowhere, such as Gonzo realizing that he can use some weapon or defensive feature of the submarine that the audience didn't even know existed.
Yup, that's how smart the battles really are. And with that said, let's move to the final impressions each one of them had.
The vast possibilities Arpeggio could have produced or explored if it wasn't rushed are nearly endless. However, Arpeggio should not be viewed as a simple tale of man versus machine, as it incorporates so much more. It is a battle to find out and discover his one true self and meaning of existence, searching for answers to the all-important questions, how coexistence is an important value, and sentient is more than enough of a reason for us all to live together in peace.
Jeez, it sounds like you found the meaning of life in this show. The lack of world building and knowledge about the fog coincides nicely with the characterization issues to form a gaping hole where the compelling internals should be. The dreadful animation and boring battles sync up all too well, affording the audience a chance to stare at low-stakes game of chicken that isn't even produced well enough to serve as an eye-candy distraction. When all was said and done, I came away with the impression that I had basically watched a show about things that look like girls that do stuff for some reason, and I wouldn't wish that experience for anyone. And there you have it, the negative review is correct, because I agree with it. And so should you!
No matter how many times I upload my review for Bleach on Mal, it's always get taken down by the mods for the silliest reasons. Apparently providing examples that back up your claims does not count as reviewing because you are spoiling, which shouldn't be a problem when you can mark the video as having spoilers. Also, you're not supposed to be negative with the community because the community is perfect and needs no fixing. Also, you're not supposed to be funny, although there is a funny emoji someone can use as a reaction to your review. Also, you're not supposed to be controversial, something which can simply mean the mods disagree with you. Thus, I am going to show you the top Bleach reviews right now, so you can all avoid the mistakes I made and to learn what counts as good reviewing according to the mods of Mal. So, good reviewing is about mentioning how popular something is, how much money it made, and how many people like it. This is how you know the show is good, by mentioning things that have nothing to do with the show. Good reviewing is about overpraising everything, say anything is perfect and use close to no examples that back up your claims. If you are vague, you are not spoiling. If you are lying, it doesn't matter because you are not negative with the community that likes it. And make sure to mention you have a goldfish memory and you don't remember what happened in the first season, to further hammering why you can't provide any examples. You're not supposed to remember what you watch anyways. You are supposed to consume product and be excited for more products. Good reviewing is about not knowing why you like the characters besides having good designs. Oh, look at those designs that make them look cool! They are also well developed because they are defined by their superpower. They also have one line of personality, so it's easy to remember it. Now that's what makes perfect characters. Let's check out the second best review. This is it. All of it. Just 2 lines per category, with the vaguest impressions you can use in any show you like. You can copy-paste it in every review and it's going to pass the evaluation. Mine, on the other hand, that had detailed examples that excused every single thing I was saying, gets taken down for having spoilers, although I had marked it as having spoilers. And now the third review. He starts by saying Bleach was one of the big 3. That's very relevant to the show and truly proves why it's so good. Then he says the plot does not matter. If you are still watching the show, then there is no need to explain anything. You know what's going on. If you dislike the plot holes and the retcons, you would have stopped by now. No need to explain shit. The characters are so distinct, you can tell them apart from their designs. Shinigami are black, Quincy are white. That's all you need to know, so you won't confuse them. Unless, of course, you place a Quincy next to an Arankara, since they were also white. By the way, what happened to the Arankara? They disappeared and nobody mentions them, despite being part of this elaborate world building. Finally, the best remark of them all. If you possess good memory, you will get a Black Clover reference, a show that ended 2 years ago, and thus you won't have forgotten something that happened 6 months ago. Brilliant! Spectacular! Keep that review and delete the 5 negative ones that were above it. That's what good reviewing is all about.
Brynhildur in the Darkness, a show written by the same guy who did Elfen Lied, an equally amazing masterpiece. And yes, thousands of people really think they are masterpieces, like this guy over here. His opinion has to be trusted, since 1 out of 3 people found this review helpful. Let me show you why. Overall, while the plot doesn't look too extraordinary, the elements of mystery are dominating. 9 out of 10 for that. The art is fabulous. There was an avalanche at one point, and it looks just amazing. Not even worth mentioning other parts. Loved the art. 10 out of 10. That's all he wrote about the art. You'll love the opening and ending themes. All the time I can only be amazed at how good the producers did with the sound. There was a point where the MC was thinking and saying difficult questions. It has an amazing sound attached to it. But what you expect, Elfenlied was also excellent. 10 out of 10. And that's all he said about the sound. Outstanding characters! Most of them have mystery elements and you will want to remember them for as long as you can after you finish the anime. They aren't annoying, they are all very likable. 10 out of 10! That's all he wrote about the characters. And goddammit if I want to forget them because they are annoying as hell. Overall, fantastic! I'm probably as much excited for this as Game of Thrones series. That came out of nowhere. Yes people, Brynhildur is as good as the Game of Thrones. Both are equally enjoyable, and I would recommend it for anyone. Yeah, first he calls them both enjoyable, and then he recommends only this one. Out of nowhere, 1 out of 3 helpful for this. Okay, let's check out another review. This one got almost 50% helpful ratio, so it has to be even better. I mean, he does start by saying it is a unique story, even though everybody is saying it is a rehash of Elfenlied. Much better than before. The character design and the whole setting is modern and presentable. Because of this modern art, the bloody scenes are watchable and not creepy unlike the others, because there is no such thing as violent and detailed retro animation. Great articulation, using the exact same word 9 times in 4 lines. And the sound deserves 10 out of 10 just because of the second opening song, which by the way is a piece of shit. He finds the characters normal for having high intelligence, photographic memory, and being witches, just like all normal people. They are also mainstream as far as personalities goes, but because they are defined by outstanding superpowers, which have nothing to do with personality, just like all possible shonen characters do, they deserve a very high score. He enjoyed the show very much because the terminology was simplistic and constantly expo-talked by the characters, so anyone could understand it, just like all possible shonen characters do. This review was simplistic and constantly expo-talked by the author, so 1 out of 2 people understood it. And don't worry about the creepy stuff, guys. They are not scary because everything is censored. God bless censorship. I mean, who would like to watch a gory film with all the gore not being censored? Okay, now for the third review, which has more than 50% helpful ratio and is currently the top voted. This is not a part of the whole text, I am showing you the whole thing. It is 10 lines in total, half of which are wasted on just telling you the premise, and the other half on telling you what the show is not, as well as hyping it as the best show of the year without explaining shit. And that is the top rated review on Mal. Let's see what negative reviewers said about it. This one, for example, truthfully tells you the show changes from splatter horror to harem comedy in seconds and expects you to take it seriously. And for his honesty, he didn't even get a 50% helpful ratio. This one explains in detail and excuses well why the characters are fake archetypes and the tone is all over the place. Not even 50% either. And let's not forget my own review, which is over 1,000 words and excuses in detail the multiple reasons of why this modern abomination is way worse than the already terrible retro Elfenlied. Not even 50% either. We all lost to this. You know what to do. Kingdom is a title that was watched by very few people and yet has a very big following in the manga version. It is far from great and the anime adaptation has even more problems, all of which are listed in the top-rated review about it using a most misinformed way. Just like most fanboys do with their favorite titles, so does he add more to it than it presents or deserves, in this case by quoting something a famous person said that has absolutely nothing to do with the story. A sign of weak reviewing is when you spend entire paragraphs into simply explaining the premise. These are stuff you can find in the description in the main page in any database it is mentioned in, and has no purpose being in a review, other than making the premise to sound cool, thus as if by magic the whole show is amazing. Something which is nothing more than a distraction. He mentions that this show has a lot of tactics during battles, something which is a lie since all of said battles are won by simply having the protagonist shouting and defeating his enemies by simply being angry. It doesn't matter what strategies the armies use if the solution is retarded shonen mentality that magically works all the time. He tries to excuse the protagonist winning all the time by saying how he is not overpowered. A lot of time is spent on showing us what others are doing and how you need teamwork to win win in battles, something which is again a lie, since although the protagonist is not presented as super powerful, he gets a convenient power-up every time he needs to defeat way more experienced warriors than him, and that is somehow all it takes to win in a battle. Who cares what the others are doing? The excuse the story provides for his sudden empowerment is because he was training in martial arts since he was very young and thus has a lot of hidden potential, and it would be a good excuse if it wasn't completely shattered by the fact that his training boils down to playing with his friends, none of which have any idea when it comes to martial arts. Plus the weapons they were using are wooden swords. Last time I checked, you can't become an expert gunner by holding plastic toy guns and playing cowboys and Indians with your friends. He adds how the characters have a lot of character development, and yet he only describes the most basic stuff all shonen protagonists are doing, and never gets into details regarding what development everybody else gets past the hero. Thus, all this proves nothing. He then says that the anime depicts exactly how warriors behave during battles and how it will make you be constantly at the edge of your seat, something which is a lie since the show is made with low-budget CGI, which makes everything to look completely fake. You never feel like these are real people fighting because they are dolls with crude motions. He then tries to excuse the bad CGI by simply saying that all it takes is to get used to it. After that, it's not bad. Of course, and it's not bad. Nothing is if you don't give a shit. He then adds how the show becomes even better because it has many famous voice actors in it. As if listening to Lelouch fighting Ichigo adds anything to the quality of the show. So as you can see, no matter how much he tries to defend the show, he fails to do so when confronted with critical thinking. Kingdom is just another shonen which takes the most elaborate and serious setting of the warring states of China and turns it into a kid adventure with bad CGI regarding a boy shouting and defeating elite assassins with a wooden sword. Who cares about strategies or voice actors after that?
La 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 la. This time travel anime has plot holes. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Time travel in itself is a paradox.
Well, Steins Gate doesn't have any plot holes though. Some people think the late series thing is a plot hole, when it was just explained a few episodes beforehand.
La 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 la.
The issue is that the plot holes aren't always actually related to the time travel itself. A great example of this is SG, which is probably the anime you're thinking of. Daru should have never have been capable of even mildly repairing Suzuha's time machine, regardless of whether or not he actually made it first. To reverse engineer something that took him years to build imperfectly later and get it into a mildly working state at all in 3 days is ridiculous.
The time machine was not really that far damaged. It was only damaged by a thunderstorm. The time machine did not really need to be remade, only needed damaged parts to be repaired. I know little about electronics. I could not build a toaster. If you gave me a toaster, I could find the burnt out parts and probably replace them.
La 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 la.
It is funny though, as I recently read on a thread of someone having certain criticism to the time traveling plot holes of Steins Gate, yet most of them stem from a very secular understanding of only a few philosophical theories, and that many questions that poster has can be resolved quite easily depending on which school of thought you follow. I find that most criticism on more conceptual aspects in an anime is the result of the lack of exploration on the many different philosophical schools of thought, as most people do not realize just how huge philosophy is as a study, and believe that their understanding of certain concepts is the one and only correct knowledge.
La 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 la. The one with the multiple universes, I agree, is the most consistent and lacking in plot holes. Steins Gate did that, and it was pretty good. But the one where you go and change history in a way that was already meant to be is really inconsistent. And every time I hear this kind of story, one such example comes to mind. Going back time till you become your own grandfather or something like that. It's an infinite loop, a paradox, a part of the story that doesn't explain or makes no sense, existing before you came into existence. Really muddy waters in storytelling.
There's nothing paradoxical about going back in time and becoming your own grandfather, assuming you were your own grandfather all along. There is no infinite loop involved. Philosophers, physicists that claim time travel is possible hold what is called an eternalist view of time, which claims that all times exist simultaneously. In other words, right now, 1976, 2015, and 2072 all exist at the same time, with no special privileges being given to 2015. A helpful analogy often used to explain this is that time is just like space. You can only perceive one spatial location at a time, but you don't think that walking from your living room to your kitchen stops your living room from existing. All spatial locations exist independently of whether you're viewing them or not. The analog to this is 2014 doesn't stop existing just because we're in 2015, and 2016 still exists despite not being perceived by us yet. I hope this explanation was at least somewhat helpful in giving you understanding why being your own grandfather is not a paradox.
If they are independent, then you can't go back in time or from one to another without breaking their independence. The most that makes sense to me is the different universe one where your actions in the past does not affect your own universe, but you can still change a past, not the past. La 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 la.
You is a Madoka clone.
You use a Madoka clone in many ways, but I don't care because it's a good show despite that. Madoka's just a fast clone after all. La 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 la.
Calling it a Madoka clone is inaccurate. There are very different shows. That saying just gets thrown around without reason or justification, and at this point is just a blind attempt to bash the series.
I actually believe this myself. After watching a couple of episodes, 7 episodes in, I can't even see a hint of Madoka in it. A completely different show.
I'm glad you decided to push through, as it really is a decent show. Just a shame that every Magical Girls show is doomed to be unnecessarily and incorrectly compared to Madoka.
That's what happens when you're at the construction.
La 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 la.
I always chuckle at the weekly Is Madoka Good thread, where people criticize the bad writing and poor shock value, okay? Do you have anything to back that up or elaborate upon those criticisms? 7 out of 10 they don't, and throw in that buzzword to make themselves appear intelligent and superior to others. The other people try to give flimsy examples that are either rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of the text, or just regurgitated bullshit they read from that anime snob and others like him. That's not to say Madoka can't be criticized, but it's just frustrating and annoying to see people criticize it in a way that is completely illogical and founded in false claims and ideas that aren't even theirs to begin with.
La 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 la.
Attack on Titan. The pacing is bad. That's probably because you watched it while airing, and it's not really a setting where you can just shoehorn in some action every episode. Sometimes you have to have a few slow episodes, which seem really slow when it's once a week.
Slow is things not happening in quick succession. Pacing is things not happening at the right times. ROT isn't slow, it's poorly paced. Its pace is erratic and doesn't fit the series.
I don't think you're wrong. That's just not how I rate things. I try to rate shows based on how good the show is, not how the show was viewed. That's like saying you think a show was ugly because you watched it in 480 pixel when you had the option of watching it in 1080 pixel, even if it required some patience.
Fidelity and cinematography are two entirely different things, good sir. A 180 movie can look like shit. It's about visual artistic elements, not quality of renderization.
La 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 la. There's no reason for there to be a 3-4 episode story arc about moving a fucking rock.
Your wording makes it sound like The Rock isn't a big deal. I skimmed through some of the episodes to refresh my memory, and while there is a lot of dialogue, it's a very important moment, so there's a lot of tensions which I like, and there's still some action scenes.
I don't mean to say that The Rock is a big deal. I'm just saying that nearly an hour of someone's life shouldn't be wasted on the position of a rock when it comes to entertainment media.
Well, actually, the putting down the rock episode only spends a few minutes on the rock, and it's basically just epic music and motivation speeches leading to an absurdly over-the-top flagging scene, which overall I consider one of my favorite moments in anime ever.
La 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 la.
Anime that are adaptation of the source material. People think just because the anime is a bad adaptation of a source material, it means that it's bad. No, it's not. Just because the anime is a good or bad adaptation of the source material does not mean it's going to be a good or bad anime. It all depends on how good the anime. You see those type of people all over the internet, especially the manga readers.
But if the source material is superior, why would you bother checking out the lackluster adaptation made solely for the sake of money by plot butchers? Check out the source. That's why it's poorly reviewed, so that people can avoid spoiling the actual experience of the source with the trash anime.
Part of being a good adaptation is to change the adaptation to fit the format you're adapting to. This sometimes means changing the story or the way it's presented. I keep hearing people saying that the ending of Clannad is great because it fits with the VN, but honestly that makes no sense. I'm watching an anime, not reading a VN.
I think judging an anime adaptation is the same thing as watching a movie adaptation of a book. If you don't judge it based on the source material, you are missing a major part of what makes the work work. Sure, it should be based on its own material, but it should also be based on its faithfulness to the source material. Most anime are just advertisements for the respective visual novel, light novel, manga anyways.
Well, yay, you could judge how faithful it is to the source material, but that shouldn't mean the faithfulness is the final judgment for the series.
La 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 la. Naruto, Bleach, etc. Lots of fillers. Well, you can just skip them.
This is very ignorant. Imagine a movie critic told you that Godzilla was the best movie of 2014, so long as you entered the theater an hour late.
Skipping works just fine for the finished series, but for airing ones, it's not really viable.
Well, you can't check online news to see where the filler is supposed to end. There is usually a schedule of some sort. It's like how all anime take long breaks. sometimes even more than 2 years between seasons. These long-running shows would need to do the same, but instead decide to employ fillers. You can choose to treat fillers as breaks if you want, and pretend they don't exist and just resume watching the anime as soon as the filler ends. La 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 la.